The Rolling Stone magazine asked Truman if he would write their tour.
Lee Radziwill lived in Jackie Kennedy's shadow for 85 years. She stole boyfriends, competed for the same men, and fought over millions. When she died in 2019, people thought they knew her story. But her daughter Tina broke her silence after 6 years. What she revealed about Lee's favoritism, emotional coldness, and family secrets shocked everyone. The confession exposed a side of the famous socialite that even Jackie never knew. Some truths are too painful to tell while people are still alive. Lee Radziwill was born on March 3, 1933 at Doctors Hospital in Manhattan. Her full name was Caroline Lee Bouvier. Her father was a stockbroker named John Vernu Bouvier III, though people called him Blackjack. Her mother was Janet Norton Lee, a beautiful socialite. Lee was born just 4 years after her sister Jackie, who came into the world on July 28, 1929 in Southampton. But the world they were born into was falling apart. The Great Depression had crushed the country. In 1933, the same year Lee was born, unemployment hit 25%. The stock market crash of 1929 had destroyed millions of lives, and the Bouvier were not spared. Blackjack's brokerage firm was barely staying afloat. He lost clients quickly, and the family had to move out of their luxurious homes. By that year, more than 15,000 banks had failed across America. Lee later said that her father's risky decisions during that time made her terrified of financial ruin. She grew up craving stability, something she felt her childhood never had. To make things seem better than they really were, the Bouvier clung to an image of old money. Blackjack even told people they came from French nobility. But by the 1970s, genealogists exposed it all as fake. Their real background traced back to a cabinet maker from the 1800s. So Lee had been born into a world that was already pretending, already falling apart, and she would spend her life trying to rewrite that story. From the time she was 3 years old in 1936, Lee split her time between a penthouse on Park Avenue and a grand estate in East Hampton. But behind the glamour, things were messy. Her father drank heavily. By the late 1930s, he was finishing bottles of whiskey every day. He had affairs and violent moods that were whispered about in society circles. In 1935, he got sued for taking $100,000 from family trusts. That nearly destroyed them. In 1938, he lost his Wall Street job, and people even gossiped that he had been involved in insider trading. By 1940, everything came crashing down when Lee's parents divorced. She was just 7. Her mother accused Blackjack of cruelty. The courts gave her full custody and made Blackjack pay $1,000 a month in alimony, even though he was drowning in $200,000 of debt. The scandal played out in the newspapers, and Lee never forgot it. Lee and Jackie were suddenly living between homes, surrounded by tension. In 1942, Janet married again. This time, it was Hugh D. Auchincloss, a wealthy oil heir worth over $50 million. The new marriage brought more children into the picture, like Yusha, born in 1927, and half-siblings Janet in 1945 and Jamie in 1947. Lee felt like she didn't belong in this new world. She was only 10 when she started fighting with her new stepbrothers and stepsisters, worried about who would get what in the future. She once said those years taught her not to trust anyone. When her father got drunk and passed out at a family event in 1942, embarrassing her in front of everyone, she said she made a vow to never show weakness again. Lee spent summers at a place called La Satta, a 7-acre estate in East Hampton that her grandfather had bought in 1925 for $50,000. It had 8 bedrooms and views of the ocean. The family hosted famous names there. By 1937, Lee was meeting people like the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers. On the outside, it looked magical, but inside things were tense. Jackie, 4 years older, was the star. In 1940, Jackie won a pony riding contest. Lee was 7 and cried when she lost. Their grandfather, Major Bouvier, died in 1948, owing $1 million in debt, and the family had to sell larder in 1950. Lee later said that no matter how beautiful a place looked, it never meant peace. One night in 1939, there was a drunken fight at Later. That night, She learned that high society could be cruel behind its polished surface. By age 5 in 1938, Lee and Jackie were already being dressed in matching outfits for photos. Their mother was obsessed with image. Even during the Depression, Janet spent $500 a year on their clothes. After the divorce in 1941, she put both girls into ballet classes that cost $200 per session. Everyone always said Jackie was prettier. That hurt Lee deeply. In 1950, at just 17, she got a nose job to change how she looked. By the time she went to Miss Potter's school in 1947, she had learned to copy styles that would later make her famous. But the style was a mask. One day in 1939, when she ripped a dress, her mother locked her in a closet for hours. From that moment, Lee began hiding her pain behind perfect clothes and perfect smiles. She started school at Chapin in Manhattan, then went to the PTOIC school in Washington. In 1947, she entered Miss Porter in Connecticut, where tuition cost $1,500 a year. That would be more than $20,000 LS today. She was good at drawing and acting. Her 1950 yearbook had kind words about her creativity, but she failed math and history. Jackie, on the other hand, got straight A's. She even won a Vogue writing contest in 1951. Teachers said Lee was bright but wild. She skipped homework, chased thrills, and got detention 2 times a week in 1949. She hated being compared to Jackie and started looking for her own way out. At 15 in 1948, Lee started rebelling. She skipped 12 classes one semester. On October 15, 1948, she got caught smoking miles behind the dorms and was suspended for 2 weeks. People were shocked. They thought she was a good daughter. Worse, there were rumors she had a 20-year-old boyfriend named Peter. Her mother pulled her out of school for a serious talk on November 5, 1948, but it didn't work. In February 1949, she climbed out a window and hitchhiked 10 miles to a party. She came back at dawn, messy and smiling. Her father paid $500 that year to clean up her messes, but still called Jackie the favorite. In 1950, she forged notes, missed 18 days, and nearly lost her $50 a month allowance. That year, Lee began pulling away from the perfect Bouvier image. Society began to notice. She spent summers at Hammersmith Farm in Newport, a 28-room estate her stepfather's family had owned since 1887. They bought it for $100,000. Starting in 1941, she learned to ride horses. By 1946, she had won a ribbon on a pony named Dancer. She had to learn manners and French phrases from governesses, but she never felt like she fit in. Her stepfather was worth over $10 million. Her half-siblings, Janet and Jamie, were born in 1945 and 1947. During a big party on August 15, 1948, she stayed upstairs feeling invisible. In 1950, she stopped helping with chores. On July 3, 1951, she snuck off to sail and got stuck alone for hours. On June 28, 1949, her stepfather caught her sneaking liquor. A family fight followed. Even with all the yachts and picnics, Lee felt trapped by a life that wasn't hers. Lee Radziwill never liked being just someone's sister. In the early 1960s, while most people still saw her in Jackie Kennedy's shadow, she quietly started working with Giorgio Armani. It wasn't official at first. She would wear his custom pieces while traveling around Milan, showing off a black and white striped top and a velvet skirt that later turned heads at a 1982 event. By 1980, she made it official, becoming Armani's special events director. This was her first real job, and by 1985 she was earning $50,000 a year. It might not sound like much today, but back then it was shocking for someone born into high society. She used her charm and connections to bring Armani into Hollywood, even introducing him to Richard Gere at a party in 1980. Armani's sales in the U.S. exploded from $10 million to $135 million by 1984. She helped him dress Oscar winners, even though Jackie reportedly wasn't happy about it since she preferred American designers. But for Lee, this was her chance to finally stand out. In 1966, she took another big step by working with Truman Capote on a fashion series for Ladies' Home Journal. The article surprised readers right away. Lee admitted to secretly borrowing Jackie's Givenchy gowns back in 1961 when money was tight, even sneaking them into the White House against JFK's wishes. She revealed her clothing budget was only $20,000 a year, and sometimes she pawned her jewelry for as much as $5,000 to keep up appearances. Capet helped write about her trip to India in 1962, including a 1,200 Tavid Talons Yves Saint Laurent dress she wore. The articles came out in July 1966 and reached 2 million readers. But things got tense when Lee admitted she always felt insecure around Jackie, whose wardrobe budget was 5 times bigger at $100,000 a year. The partnership made her more famous, but also more vulnerable. People gossiped that Capet loved her more than she realized. And when he later exposed private stories in a 1975 magazine piece, their friendship ended for good. Back in February 1962, Rolling Stone magazine gave her a huge spotlight, calling her the chic Radzi. It was a 10-page spread with 15 photos, including her posing in a $3,500 Mandarin dress by Yves Saint Laurent. She wore $800 turbans and $2,000 gowns, living the high life. One story talked about her 1961 camel ride in Pakistan where she lost a $500 shoe. That article made her stand out, and it boosted YSL's U.S. sales by 40%. But it also stirred up trouble with Jackie, who slapped her during an argument just 1 month later. That same year, Jackie wore a similar YSL dress to a White House dinner, quietly showing her disapproval. Even fashion became a battle between the sisters. In 1967, Lee launched her own fashion line. She put $80,000 into it, selling $150 turbans and $200 scarves at Bloomingdale's, hoping to sell 1,000 items a month. But it all went wrong. A dye issue ruined 500 pieces in July, costing her $100,000 by December. Only 300 items were sold, and people called the line overpriced. Italian factories delayed shipments, and she lost another $20,000 from returned stock. Even though she made $50,000 from her Bloomingdale's deal, the business failed. Her previous acting career had already flopped. So after this, she turned to interior design. From 1959 to 1970, she posed in a series of daring photos for photographer Cecil Beaton. In 1966, Vogue featured her in $1,200 men's suits, with some photos hinting at rumors about her sexuality. One 1964 shoot captured her tear-streaked makeup just months after JFK's death. Beaton said she was infinitely more beautiful than Jackie. But when Andy Warhol made comments in 1970 about her possibly being bisexual, the rumors peaked. These photos appeared in 15 magazines and helped shape her image as edgy and elegant. They stopped working together after her 1974 divorce. That same year, Truman Capet turned on her. In November 1975, he published a chapter called Low-Cut Basque 1965 in Esquire. It told stories about his high society friends, including Lee, using fake names but obvious details. He revealed personal things she had told him over 20 years of friendship. Lee was devastated. She thought about suing, but the writing was too cleverly disguised. Capet had even once written a play just for her, but now she joined others like Slim Keith in cutting him off. It was the end of an era, and he died alone in 1984. Also in 1974, she tried her hand at writing. With Jackie's help, she worked on a book called One Special Summer about their 1951 European trip. The first drafts got rejected by 2 publishers for revealing too much about their past, including hints about romantic flings. They toned it down, and Delacorte Press finally published it. It sold 10,000 copies, but critics called it lightweight. Still, it gave Lee a new purpose. She later wrote more books like Happy Times in 2000 and Lee in 2015, though she always admitted the early drafts were far juicier. After divorcing Prince Stanis Radziwill in 1974, Lee started an interior design firm. She quickly found success. In 1974, she redesigned Berenguer de Rothschild's Paris apartment for over $500,000, which today would be about $3 million. Her Indian-inspired silks shocked the French elite. By the late 1970s, she was earning $2 million a year, working with clients like Stavros Naros. Her business expanded to New York in 1980 with 15 major projects per year and a $10 million portfolio. Still, people whispered that she only worked with clients who had titles, ignoring the new rich. In 1975, she redesigned the luxury suites at the Pierre Hotel in New York. It had just been hit by a $27 million jewel heist. Lee added hidden safes in furniture, including a $50,000 bed frame with secret drawers. One suite even had a panic room that looked like a closet with bulletproof glass and a $200,000 price tag. Some people thought it was over the top, but others loved the blend of beauty and security. By 1978, she had earned $1.5 million from the Pierre alone and later designed 10 more hotels in a similar style. Her memoir, Happy Times, finally came out in 2003, but she had started writing it back in the early 1980s. The original drafts were explosive. In 1982, she wrote about a 1962 argument with Jackie over a $10,000 loan and how Jackie refused to help her. The Kennedy family got lawyers involved in 1983, warning her not to publish under a $500,000 penalty. She changed the drafts, but some pages leaked in 1984, showing stories of jealousy and drama, including Jackie's anger over Lee's 1959 marriage to a prince. When the book finally came out, it sold 50,000 copies in 1 month and earned her $1 million. In 1980, she returned to fashion as Armani's PR executive, earning $200,000 a year. By 1985, it was $500,000. She helped Armani reach Hollywood by dressing Richard Gere for American Gigolo, which made $52 million in 1988. She signed with Marc Jacobs for $300,000. But in 1985, a scandal hit when Jacobs released an ad of Lee in a revealing pose. It was pulled after backlash, costing $1 million in lost ads. Some accused her of using the Kennedy name for attention. Conservative groups boycotted Jacobs in 1986, but her fashion work continued, and by 1989, she was part of 20 campaigns. Between 1975 and 1985, she mentored over 30 young designers. But in 1987, interviews came out where she admitted to rejecting 15 applicants in 1984 for not having the right breeding. She said poise mattered more than talent. This caused 200 angry letters and criticism from the American Society of Interior Designers in 1988. Applications to her firm dropped 20%. In 1990, a former mentee sued her for $100,000 after being fired for not fitting in. She still launched a few successful careers, including one designer who later worked for the Rothschilds. But by 1989, she had lost 3 major clients due to the scandal. Lee's divorce from Prince Radziwill became official on July 23, 1974, after 2 years apart. He had been having affairs with younger women and left behind debts of $30 million when he died in 1976. Lee lost her princess title and had to auction off family treasures in 1975 to stay afloat. She sold a 19th-century Polish saber for $8,000 and other items worth $50,000. She started dating lawyer Peter Tufo and took more interior design jobs to survive. Her children, Anthony and Tina, were supported by Jackie since their father's estate was worthless. In 1963, she began an affair with Aristotle Onassis just as her marriage was falling apart. He gave her a $10,000 diamond bracelet and she spent time on his yacht, the Christina. But by October, Jackie had stepped in and taken over. That same year, during a stay at London's Claridge's Hotel, Jackie allegedly slapped Lee in a heated fight over Onassis. He married Jackie in 1968, but Lee later said she never planned to marry him. Letters from 1964 confirmed the feud. The affair became public when a July 1963 New York Post article hinted at the drama. Lee married again on September 23, 1988 to film director Herbert Ross, best known for Footloose. She was 55, he was 61, but by 1995 he became controlling. He banned her from seeing friends like Truman Capote and even told her what to wear. In 2001 court filings, Lee said he monitored her calls and stopped her from going out, leading to depression in 1999. They divorced on October 15, 2001. Russ died soon after at age 74 from heart failure. Lee received $5 million in the settlement, but lost their $12 million Hamptons home. In the late 1970s, her life spun out of control with drugs. She started using cocaine at Studio 54 parties in 1977. In 1980 biographies, she admitted doing it almost every night. In July 1978, she was seen collapsing on the dance floor after mixing cocaine with Valium. By 1979, a club raid revealed her name in records tied to $800 in drugs. She overdosed on cords in 1975 and had to get her stomach pumped at Lenox Hill Hospital. She joined AA in 1981 after a public breakdown in Southampton. At 5 feet 6 inches, she had dropped to just 95 pounds. Truman Caput's own drug use only made things worse. She began her recovery in 1982, but her bond with Jackie grew strained. In 1970, she borrowed $100,000 from Jackie to buy a London apartment and promised to repay it in a year. But by 1975, it was still unpaid. Jackie grew frustrated, especially after Lee defaulted on a $20,000 rental. Interest raised the debt to $150,000 by 1980. In 1985, Jackie leaked the story to Vanity Fair, calling her sister a moocher. When Jackie died in 1994, she left nothing to Lee in her will. She wrote that Lee had already received support. But when Lee died in 2019, her own estate was worth $50 million. She left nothing to the Kennedy family. One of the worst fights happened in 1973 when Lee secretly sold gifted jewelry for $15,000. Jackie found out and filed a court affidavit. Their relationship never fully recovered. Lee Radziwill spent her whole life competing with her oldest sister, Jackie Kennedy. It started when they were young and never really ended. In 1951, when Lee was just 18, she took Jackie's boyfriend, Michael Canfield. Jackie had been serious about him. Their mother was so upset, she had to sit Lee down and talk to her about loyalty. But Lee didn't stop there. She married Canfield in 1953. That marriage didn't last. It ended in 1958 after rumors came out that Lee had been unfaithful. Then in 1962, Lee started seeing Aristotle Onassis. But 6 years later, in 1968, Jackie married him instead. Lee claimed she had introduced Onassis to Jackie. It was another painful reminder that she always came second. In private, Lee told Truman Caput in 1962 that she was obsessively jealous of her sister's success and status. Even though she told People magazine in 1976 that they were exceptionally close, people who knew them said there was always tension, whether it was about men, money, or fame. Lee was born on March 3, 1933. Jackie was born July 28, 1929. Lee was always following behind. When President John F. Kennedy was shot in Dallas on November 22, 1963, Lee flew from London to Washington the next day. She stayed with Jackie for weeks. During the funeral on November 25th, Lee cried hard as the plane flew over Arlington Cemetery. That night, she left a note on Jackie's pillow saying, "Good night, my darling Jax, the bravest and noblest of all." She stayed until December 6th and spent Christmas with Jackie in Palm Beach. But 5 years later, Jackie married Onassis on October 20th, 1968. Lee felt deeply hurt. She had dated him first in 1962. She went to the wedding, but something inside her broke. In public, she still denied any rivalry, but the pain from Jackie's choices stayed with her for decades. That night in 1963, when she had cried for Jackie, turned into something else by 1968. Something colder. Things got even harder between Lee and her own daughter Tina. Tina was born on August 18, 1960. By the mid-1970s, Lee was criticizing her teenage daughter's weight, especially around 1975 and 1976. It hurt Tina deeply. When she was 17 in 1977, Tina moved out and went to live with Jackie in New York. Lee had just gone through a divorce in 1974 from Prince Stanislas Radziwill. Her life was falling apart. By 1975, she was already bankrupt. Tina's father wasn't helping much either. Jackie stepped in and set up trust funds for both Tina and her brother Anthony in 1976. But the move to Jackie's home made the distance between mother and daughter permanent. Even after all this, when Lee died in 2019, she left everything to Tina. Her will was signed on September 20, 2018. It gave Tina $50 million, But Tina later said in a 2024 video that the money didn't make up for the emotional coldness she had grown up with. In 1994, Jackie Kennedy died. Her will shocked everyone. She left Lee nothing, not a single dollar. The will said, "I've made no provision in this my will for my sister Lee B. Radziwill, for whom I have great affection, because I have already done so during my lifetime." But insiders believed it was revenge. Rumors had swirled since 1962 that Lee had been involved with JFK even before his death. That same year, Lee had also introduced Jackie to Onassis, and Jackie never forgot. The will gave $500,000 to Lee's children, Anthony and Tina, but nothing to Lee herself. Jackie's total estate was worth over $43 million and went entirely to her children, Caroline and John Jr., born in 1957 and 1960. By then, Lee and Jackie hardly spoke. What Lee had once denied so strongly, the rivalry, was confirmed with silence. In the early 1980s, they tried to repair things. Around 1982 and 1983, they met for lunches and exchanged letters, but it didn't last. A 1983 letter from Jackie to Lee brought everything crashing down. Jackie accused Lee of having an affair with Robert F. Kennedy, her brother-in-law. The affair supposedly began during a vacation in Antigua in January 1964. FBI files even backed the rumors, saying the affair lasted until 1968. Lee had denied this in a 1976 interview, but the damage was done. Ethel Kennedy was heartbroken when she found out in 1984. By 1994, Jackie cut Lee out of her will. The past couldn't be erased. Gore Vidal later said Lee once bragged about sleeping with JFK in France in 1959. That made the betrayal even worse. By the early 2000s, Lee quietly stepped away from the spotlight. In 2001, she sold her Hamptons home for $3.5 million and moved to a quiet apartment on Avenue Montaigne in Paris. Her glamorous days with Warhol and Capet were long gone. In 2015, when she was 82, Lee was rushed to the hospital in New York. The family didn't say what caused it, but people close to her whispered that she had been drinking heavily for years, sometimes finishing 2 bottles of wine a day. She had already survived cancer in the 1990s and had a hysterectomy in 1990. After the 2015 hospitalization, she returned to Paris and became even more reclusive. By 2016, she had cut herself off from almost everyone. On February 15, 2019, Lee Radziwill died in her Manhattan apartment. She was 85. Her daughter Tina was the only one at her bedside. Her son Anthony had died in 1999 at age 40 from cancer. No one else from the Kennedy family came to say goodbye. Her funeral on February 25th had only 50 guests. Medical bills of $200,000 were unpaid when she passed. There were rumors that she hadn't spoken to old friends like Rudolph Nerve Circle in years. Her death certificate filed on February 20th, 2019 said no autopsy was done. It only listed natural causes. Tina had to handle everything alone. 5 months before her death, on September 20th, 2018, Lee signed her final will. It revealed a $50 million estate. All of it left to Tina. The will was made public on March 22, 2019. Neither Caroline Kennedy nor Lee's daughter-in-law, Carol Radziwill, got anything. Carol, whose husband Anthony had died in 1999, filed a lawsuit in April 2019. She said Lee had promised her $10 million from the family trust. Caroline Kennedy, worth $250 million, joined the legal battle in June 2019, saying Lee had once promised her $5 million back in 1995. Lee's fortune included $20 million in Paris real estate, $15 million in jewelry, and $15 million in old investments. People had thought she was broke. In 2017, she sold a diamond ring for $150,000 just to pay taxes, but it turned out she had been hiding money for years. The lawsuits ended in 2021. Tina kept 80% and paid out $8 million to settle everything. That betrayal reminded people of Lee's old jealousy when Jackie inherited $26 million from Onassis in the 1970s. In October 2019, Christie's auctioned over 500 of Lee's belongings. The sale brought in $1.2 million, but what shocked everyone were the letters. One from 1962 showed Jackie accusing Lee of selling White House secrets for $5,000. Another from 1973 revealed Jackie's anger over Lee's relationship with Onassis, saying it cost her $10 million in legal settlements. A letter from 1959 had Lee begging Jackie for $100,000 to help with her divorce. The auction drew over 2,000 viewers online. Some of the biggest bids were for Peter Beard photos and Spanish art pieces. One letter confirmed they had fought in 1974 over the rights to the Grey Gardens documentary. Even Jackie's old photos from India in 1961 sold for $20,000. The rivalry never stopped. After Lee's death, her daughter Tina finally spoke out. In a 2024 interview, Tina said she always felt invisible. Lee favored Anthony, especially after his cancer diagnosis in 1990. Tina said that grief consumed her mother and left her feeling left out. The confession came out on May 30, 2025 in a YouTube video. Tina said Lee never gave her emotional support even though she left her the full estate. She also said the favoritism affected her marriage and her identity. She divorced in 2005. Tina said she stayed quiet for years out of respect, but the truth had to come out.